Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. This is your latest Manchester United news. My name is Jack. Welcome. Plenty to talk about tonight. Really interesting stuff coming out from Manchester United. Only in the last maybe 20 minutes or so. Obviously, Jadon Sancho was due to hold talks with Erik ten Hag. So we're going to get into that. Some reports are suggesting that a conclusion has been made, and it's not good news if you're a Jadon Sancho fan. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Jim Ratcliffe and the takeover of Manchester United as well. He has come out and, he hasn't really given a statement about it, but he's been speaking about his bid and what happens if he doesn't win and how disappointed he'll be and so on and so forth. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We're going to talk about Graham Souness, and he does come out with another stinker, in my opinion. He's on a rampage like he always is, the most unbiased, the most biased pundit there is in the footballing fraternity, you would say. We'll talk about him. We're also going to talk about Paul Pogba a little bit as well. I know it's not necessarily Manchester United news, but he's a former Manchester United player, and he has some anti-doping allegations put against him, so we'll talk about that as well. But look, obviously, the main place we're going to start is Jadon Sancho. Do smash a like on the video, by the way, if you haven't already done so. Hit subscribe as well if you're new to the channel, and get your comments in below. Like always, I see Niall is there already as well. Good to see you guys. So anyway, yeah, look, Jadon Sancho, he was set today for talks with Erik ten Hag. So any of the non-international players for Manchester United were due back in training today. Jadon Sancho, of course, is one of them because he's not on the England or part of the England squad. And reports were suggested that he was due to hold, I suppose, showdown emergency talks with Erik ten Hag, and by all accounts that did happen today, and we've got some reports suggesting that it's not good news. So it's coming from a number of different outlets. Jadon Sancho will push to leave Manchester United in January after crisis talks with Erik ten Hag have failed to reach a resolution. That's from the Mirror. We've also got the Express as well. It says Jadon Sancho set to leave Man United as Erik ten Hag shows ruthless edge again in talks. Now, again, these are the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to reporters and media outlets. So, that tends to be the case, with stuff like this. We will see the more tier one outlets and journalists, fact checking for the next maybe overnight, and we will probably see a little bit more tomorrow on it. But look, we'll talk about the reports that are already out there. So this says Jadon Sancho's Man United career looks over after an unsuccessful start to crunch talks with manager Erik ten Hag, according to reports. The 23-year-old winger could leave United as early as January after his public spat with ten Hag left the pair's relationship in tatters. We know all of that. According to the Daily Star, those discussions haven't produced a resolution due to a new lack of trust after the Dutchman was left dismayed by Sancho challenging his authority. Ten Hag's ruthless edge has resurfaced with Antony's leave of absence not expected to boost Sancho's hopes of game time amid fears he has become a bad influence around the squad. The report adds that the 73 million flop will look to end his United career in January via a loan move with a view of making his exit permanent next summer. So yeah, look, that's basically what people are reporting on it. And I mean, what else can we say about it, really? I mean, Jadon Sancho has created this media storm for himself. It's something that Erik ten Hag didn't need, shouldn't have had to deal with. And I think if Jadon Sancho had just kept his mouth shut for a couple of weeks, we would have seen all of this Antony stuff come out, and I think that would have probably instantly moved Sancho up the pecking order. But since he came out and said this and made his points quite clear about Erik ten Hag, I think it's very clear, even from that report there, that Erik ten Hag's trust for Jadon Sancho is no longer there. And look, we've seen with Erik ten Hag in the short period of time that he's been at Manchester United, that trust is something that he holds very dear and finds very important, as manager of Manchester United. We've seen before Erik ten Hag took over the lack of trust that was within the Manchester United squad. Players going behind the manager's back, going directly to the board, certain players had direct links to certain journalists leaking information, so on and so forth. So I think that was one thing that Erik ten Hag was looking to make sure he got right from day one when he took over at Manchester United. and he is sticking by it by all accounts here. I mean, of course, the biggest one was with Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo went against the manager, you don't win. Now, if Cristiano Ronaldo went against the manager after the season that he had before Erik ten Hag arrived, you think Jadon Sancho is going to have it any easier given the numbers he's put up in the 2 and a bit years that he's been? Is it 2 or 3 years he's been there? I think this is his third season, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, it's there's no hope for him to coming back in my eyes. I really don't think there is. I think Erik ten Hag has been completely right here. I think he was quite professional. He answered a question honestly. He's the manager. He's entitled to give his opinion. He's entitled to not pick a player based on their, training performances. It doesn't just have to be training performances. And by all accounts, Jadon Sancho has been dropped for more than just his training performances. His lack of professionalism, his timekeeping, his effort, all these kind of things have been brought into question. And we've seen since this story is broke that, old reports have been surfacing about Jadon Sancho at Man City had similar problems. Borussia Dortmund had similar problems, and now we're getting it as well. The one I suppose disappointing thing here about Manchester United is that we just don't really seem to be good at maybe doing background checks on players before we sign them. In terms of, we know what's going on with Antony. Obviously Mason Greenwood came through the academy, but now Jadon Sancho. I mean, I think it would have been pretty easy for Manchester United to understand and kind of get to the bottom of the type of professional that Jadon Sancho was at Man City and at Borussia Dortmund. Because when you're going to be spending close to 80 million on a player, these are very important questions that you need to be asking. You have to be aware if, Jadon Sancho is, not professional, turning up late, not putting in effort. All of these things have to be fact checked before you spend 80 million on a player. So yeah, I'm surprised with that and a little bit disappointed. But the big question is now, who replaces him? Who starts on that right wing on the weekend? We'll get into that in a minute. Let me go through a couple of the comments here. Niall is in. Aaron is there as well. Niall says, media trying to make Erik ten Hag out to be the bad guy. Let him when all of the bad blood is gone. It's only then we will see Ten Hag is building. I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, Niall. Jock is there as well. Ben is in. And Aaron says, number one is bigger than the club. Or sorry, no one is bigger than the club. Fact. As soon as you air your thoughts and they are against the club or the manager, then expect the backlash. If you're at the top of the game, you will play. Simple. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the most disappointing things about Jadon Sancho coming out with this media post, was that, you would see, or you were kind of getting the kind of feeling from the fan base in general. Well, what I got in some of the responses that I got, maybe with comments and stuff like that, is that, why didn't he just put his head down and work hard? Because he came out with some very silly, comments within it saying, I'm a scapegoat. I mean, it's just nonsense, especially from the fan base. I mean, the fan base gave him an awful lot of rope. And Erik ten Hag gave Jadon Sancho an awful lot of rope, last season. I mean, when have you ever heard of another player getting 3 months off to go off and, physically and mentally get yourself right? So I think Erik ten Hag has done everything he can, and he probably just had enough, and look, I think, like I said before, I think Erik ten Hag is entitled to give his honest opinion. Jock says, I agree, he had potential, but you cannot have a player act this way when his performances have been so bad. Get him gone, give Pellistri his chance, a humble, hard worker, and a more talented kid. There you go. So yeah, I mean, look, what do you do now and look, I'll get into this in more depth for the match preview on Thursday. Oh, by the way, just let me mention it to everybody, I won't be doing a watch along for the Brighton game on the weekend. I've got another wedding that I didn't forget about it, but I didn't think it was landing on a game day, so I won't be doing a watch along on the weekend, unfortunately. But we'll be doing the match preview. I'll be doing probably a match reaction video after it as well. I might have a few gargles in me, so I might be an interesting one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, what do we do now with the right side? You know, do you bring Palestri straight in? Do you actually go to Garnacho and say, you know, would you like to start on the right-hand side? I'm sure Eric Ten Hag will have a game plan. I would be very, very surprised if Sancho has anything got to do with the squad, let alone the starting 11. But I would be happy to see Palestri come in and, you know, take that right-sided position. I think, you know, young player, you know, I think we signed him, what did we sign him 2 years ago? I think 2 or 3 years ago. I think while Solskjaer was manager, we signed him, and he's shown great potential. And I thought he was decent enough in pre-season as well. I would like to have an option of a backup for him. You know, I don't know, is it going to be maybe Garnacho and Palestri sharing that position? Because I think it's probably too big of an ask to put all of the pressure onto Palestri to be the main right-sided midfielder. I don't think he's quite there yet, because you know the way the media are going to, you know, act when it comes to Manchester United. There's going to be a lot of criticism. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny. Is that word scrutiny? Yeah, that's right, isn't it? And yeah, it just didn't sound right in my head, but you know what I mean. So look, I think Jadon Sancho obviously has shot himself in the foot. I don't think he's going to have anything to do with the squad unless he comes out and publicly apologizes. But I can't really see that happening either, given the fact that, I mean, the tweet that he put out is still pinned to the top of his homepage. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Let's see. Niall says, give Palestri a run and use Mount on the wing. Yeah, Mount is another option. And look, we know Bruno Fernandes can play on the right-hand side as well. I would like to keep Bruno away from the right-hand side as much as possible, because I think he's more effective, obviously, through the middle. He tends to... I think Bruno likes the kind of free role that he gets in the midfield just to go and create. You know what I mean? Go and create, go and try and set. Whereas if you're playing on the right-hand side, it's a very regimented, structured position. And I think that's probably not Bruno Fernandes's best quality. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the right-hand side. If it's Garnacho, if it's Palestri, either of them, I'm going to be totally okay with it. If it is Palestri, he's going to get a lot of time. He's going to get time from me, and he should get time from the fan base as well, from, you know, because he's a young kid and he's probably been thrown in as this right midfielder earlier than he should be. So it's important that we do give him time. Paul is in. Good to see you as well, Paul. Nice to see you back again. Let's move it on anyway, guys, and we will talk. I want to talk a little bit about Antony for a moment, because obviously we seen, and again, look, I'm not going to go into it because it's very, very long. But the United stand got a phone transcript. Let me just pull it up here. Of a conversation between two women who have come out against Antony. And yeah, it's an interesting read. Let me, I suppose, put it that way. I had a read of it myself. Again, it's very long. There's 4 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So I'll leave it up on the screen if anybody wants to read it while we're... Or actually, let me just do it this way. And I'll zoom out a little bit just so you can read it if you want. So yeah, we'll put it up there. It's probably a bit far away from me, but anyway, listen. The basic gist of it is, again, I don't want to go too in depth into any of this, but I mean, obviously, look, we know Antony has taken an agreed leave of absence. He's going to delay his return to Manchester United on the back of being dropped out of the Brazil squad. I think it's a right thing. I think United have done the right thing here. It just distanced himself a little bit. It's not going to be... I don't think this is going to be on the same scale as Mason Greenwood. I don't think that's going to be the case. Reason being is there was hard evidence instantly, and Mason Greenwood was charged straight away. it hasn't been the case with Antony. There's been allegations made. Again, that's not up for me or you or anybody else other than, the police and the judicial system to figure out whether they're true or false. But look, bringing it back to a Manchester United standpoint, I think it's just a big distraction that we don't need. There always seems to be distractions at Manchester United, and this is the kind of thing that I think Erik ten Hag is really, really trying his best to keep all of this kind of stuff away from the footballing side as much as possible. We've seen with Sir Alex Ferguson over the years, for anybody old enough to remember, the 90s and the 2000s, he protected everybody. It was all in-house, nothing leaked, nothing got out. And we've had a culture of leaks and, disappointing news breaking. And yeah, I think Erik ten Hag is slowly but surely working around this and trying to reset the standards that the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson had for so long. But look, I mean, it's probably the best thing that Antony is away for an extended period of time. Now, however long that extended period of time is, I don't know, because this might all go away after a couple of weeks. This might drag on for months. Nobody knows. But again, it doesn't leave Manchester United anywhere else other than spending nearly €100 million on a player, and now he's not available, just pretty much a year after we bought him. So, yeah, it's going to give the likes of Pellistri, the likes of Garnacho, more opportunities to, make a place for themselves within this team and within Erik ten Hag's plans. And, we've seen down through the years, even, going back as far as, the Alex Ferguson eras and so on and so forth, that sometimes it takes something like this for something good to come out of it. And I mean, like, for example, if Antony was to, not to come back and play for Manchester United, and all of a sudden we found a gem in Pellistri who was ready to actually step up and take his chance. I always get reminded, for example, of how Eric Cantona signed for Manchester United. Leeds rang United looking to sign Dennis Irwin. United said no. And before they let them hang up the phone, United asked about Eric Cantona. And that's how we signed him. And he's now, one of the greatest players that we've ever had. So, things can have a way of working themselves out a little bit. Niall says, as much as I'd like Antony to succeed at United, I can't see him being any more than a one-trick pony, unfortunately. Yeah, and let me ask you this question. Do you think this would be a good way for Erik ten Hag to kind of get out of the whole Antony situation? Because Antony is going to be, I don't want to say a flop, because he's only had one season and he's had quite a decent season when you look at the numbers he put up. I mean, Jack Grealish was 100 million and, Antony got the same amount of goals as he did in his first season in half the game time, and I think got twice as many assists. So there of course there is still room for improvement there. But could this be Erik ten Hag's way of kind of skimming over the surface that he made a mistake with Antony, and this could be his out to maybe get rid of Antony? I don't know. Look, that's been very, superstitious and all that kind of stuff. But Antony so far has frustrated an awful lot of people on the pitch for Manchester United, me included. So does he come back? Does he not come back? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. Aaron says, if there was ever a chance of these youngsters to make a statement, the time is now. Pellistri and Garnacho should be rubbing their hands together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Could you imagine Pellistri going, like, if I was Pellistri and all of this stuff came out, the Jadon Sancho thing came out, and he was like, right, okay, I'm back up to Antony now. And then the whole Antony stuff came out, and the first thing I would have done if they were back in training this morning, if we were in training for 9 o'clock, I'd be knocking on the manager's door at 20 to 9 and saying, I'm the right midfielder. I want to be the man. Give me my chance. That's what I would be doing. And I hope Palestri has done that, because I like him. He's got the talent. He just needs a game time now, and let's see if he gets it. Niall says he's done good things, but he's too predictable now. He only has 1 foot. That's in relation to Antony. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, look, let's move it on from Antony, guys. I want to talk about Jim Ratcliffe for a minute, because he has come out and he's been talking on his own platform, Ineos, and he's been talking about the takeover. He breaks his silence on Man United takeover and admits failure fear. Now, he's not fearing that he's going to lose. He has fear about not winning. You know what I mean? He doesn't think he's going to lose. Let me just make that clear. So, look, we'll go down through it, get your thoughts in here as well. The Manchester United takeover process continues to rumble, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe giving an update on the situation in which he opened up on his fears of failure. He insists failure in his bid to take over Manchester United is not an option, as he awaits news on the process of the Glazer family. See how that kind of headline is spun? Failure, fear. And then everybody is instantly thinking, oh, he's lost, you know, but it's his own fear of failure, and he's not going to stand for it, basically. Anyway, Britain's richest man is bidding for the club alongside Qatari businessman Sheikh Jassim. Ratcliffe has previously been tipped as favourite with a strategy of buying United. Sheikh Jassim bid then appeared to be in pole position to buy the club from the Glazer family, but no decision has been reached. Also, then it goes on to say, let me scroll down here. How many pop-ups do you need? In a hugely protracted process that is close to entering its 11th month, conflicting reports suggest that while the Glazer family are finally on the same page regarding the club's sale, the American family may now be considering taking the Red Devils off the market altogether. That would risk angering the club's fan base, while there have been concerns that the family were at odds with each other over the process of selling the club, as all 6 siblings still profit from their shares. Ratcliffe had previously been tipped as favoured with his strategy of buying United. The Ineos chief offer would see him take controlling interest in the club and allow current owner Joel and Avram to temporarily retain 20% of the stake at United. In an interview with Ineos.tv, Ratcliffe has spoken of the takeover process and has opened up on his fears that his move to buy the club may not succeed. He described the potential failure as far too public and excruciating, comments that may suggest he remains hopeful of acquiring the club whom he supported as a child. He said Manchester United bid would have been unthinkable 2 or 3 years ago if we hadn't had some of the experiences, some quite difficult experiences with Lausanne and Nice. You can't really contemplate acquiring a brand like Manchester United and failing, because its failure is just too public and excruciating in a deal like that. So yeah. Again, it's just a little snippet in relation to the to the takeover, and is it maybe? I mean, the first when I read it today, first and foremost, I initially thought, is this the first inkling that we may be coming to an end? Now, again, look, this is pure speculation. I don't know anything, but we've talked about this before on the channel, that you tend to hear from the loser first. Because whoever doesn't win the bid to buy Manchester United won't want to be seen as the loser, and they will tend to, step away from the process before they're announced as being the losers. So that's the first thing that I thought about today when I read this. But again, I mean, this is all just speculation until, again, and I've said this on numerous occasions, I don't think any of us should read too deeply into anything until we hear a complete statement, either from the Glazers or from the Rain Group about, who has won, because until then, it's all hearsay. Chris is in. Good to see you, Jack. Looking pretty lively. Yeah, yes. Yeah. When you're in your mid-30s, hangovers last way too long. But anyway, but yeah, I have another wedding this Saturday. So for anybody who missed out, I unfortunately will not be able to do a watch along this Saturday. So yeah, totally forgot about it. Chris says, I think that's a session article. Why would you put that out? Niall says there has been there's that much shit going on. I forgot about the takeover. Yeah, Chris says, I think both sides are trying to drum up interest and force the Glazers' hand. Buyers trying to keep the takeover in the forefront, just like an election. Losers always give a concession speech before winner is announced. Yeah, absolutely. So look, I mean, we did kind of, I remember back to, when was it? Was it June or July that there was a report, I can't remember who it was from, but it was from one of the top journalists saying that we're probably going to hear something in around October, November time. So that would mean that we're looking at the bones of 12 months since the Glazers announced that they were looking at potentially selling the club until we get an outcome. Now, they could announce, tomorrow that they've made a decision and they're picking, Sheikh Jazim, for example, hopefully. 8 to 12 weeks, I think, before the actual process can be complete and the keys of Manchester United are handed over, basically. So interesting to see what way that does work out. But I do think that, I mean, we wanted them in before the start of the transfer window this summer, and I think that is probably going to be a similar case this time. I don't see what massive difference a change of ownership could have on the club, midway through a season when, all they're going to be doing is maybe putting new people in place, so on and so forth. I think the most important timeline here is before the January transfer window opens, because we need funds, and if we get new owners, then you would hope that we will have new funds coming in on top of that as well. Oshin is in. Evening all. What new shit just happened at United today? It's all shit, actually. Bover is in. He says, see, Pogba got a ban for anti-doping. Yeah, we'll talk about it now while you've mentioned it. So yeah, Paul Pogba, Juventus midfielder, provisionally suspended for anti-doping offences. Big news in relation to Paul Pogba. He's been provisionally suspended for playing because of an anti-doping offence. Italy's National Anti-Doping Tribunal said Pogba returned a test with elevated levels of testosterone after Juve's 3-0 win at Udinese on the 20th of August. France international Pogba was an unused substitute, but was selected at random for post-match drug testing. Pogba has played a combined total of 51 minutes as a substitute this season in games with Bologna and Empoli. Yeah, anyway. Juventus said in a statement, Juventus announces that the player Paul Pogba received a precautionary suspension order from the National Anti-Doping Tribunal following the adverse outcome of the anal tongue twister. From the analysts carried out on the 20th of August, the club reserves the right to evaluate. So basically, this could lead to anywhere from 2 to 4 years of a ban for Paul Pogba if he's found guilty. It doesn't say it here on BBC Sports, but basically he has, I think he's got 48 hours to hand in a second sample, or something along them lines. But yeah, it's not looking good for Paul Pogba, really, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see what people are saying about it here. Eric Ten Hag sacked Maguire, manager now watching. Chris says, important news. Jack has another wedding this weekend. No watch along, but plenty of wedding pics. Yeah. And videos. Couldn't happen to a nicer bloke, Boffer, says Oshin, the spoofer, talking about, I hope you're talking about Pogba, not me there. As long as he doesn't start himself. Let's see. Did you see Harvey Barnes is looking to change his national team status? Yeah, he's looking to go to He's looking to go to Scotland, isn't it? There's too much of this going on at the moment. And obviously, look, from an Irish standpoint, we've been bitten badly when it comes to issues like that, you know, in relation to the likes of Jack Grealish and Declan Rice. Scumbags. Should do a weekend watch along, or should do a wedding watch along with Jack commentating. Yeah, that won't be happening. Anyway, look, let's move it on. And I want to talk about this muppet. Graham Souness claims United have taken one hell of a gamble on signings, criticizes 3 players. Now, at least the one thing I would say about Graham Souness here is that at least he's being consistent. He's not just hammering one of the players we've signed. He's actually going in on every single player that Manchester United have signed this summer. Every one of them. If there was ever, I mean, it's so, he doesn't even try and hide his bias against Manchester United. You know, there's never a good thing to say about them. Whether it be the manager, whether it be the players, whether it be the board, whether it be, I think he actually, the only ever good thing he does say is about the Glazers, which wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, let's have a look and see what he said. Graham Souness was not impressed by Manchester United's transfer business. Oh, Liverpool legend Graham Souness claims Man United have taken one hell of a risk on the signing of Rasmus Højlund this summer. The Red Devils signed the Denmark international, blah, blah, blah. Let's go down and see what he was saying here. So he says, I don't think Manchester United are going to be any better than they were last season. Souness told the Daily Express. They've spent £72 million on a young centre forward in Rasmus Højlund, who has not got a great goal scoring record. He played 34 games for Atalanta and only hit the back of the net 10 times. Now he's come to a league where it's really tough to get goals. I might be wrong, but that's one hell of a gamble for somebody that doesn't have a proven track record. Yeah, he goes on then to say he insists Martial isn't a Man United player and that Antony and Jadon Sancho are not long-term solutions for their wide areas. He says, I wrote an article 5 years ago stating it was the last chance saloon for Anthony Martial, yet he's still starting matches as their main focal point in attack. He isn't a Man United player. He will get you excited and then let you down. He went on, it doesn't mention it in this article either, but he went on to criticize the signing of Mason Mount and also the signing of Andre Onana, saying that, okay, he might be very good with the ball at his feet and passing it like 50 times in one game, but he's not a good shot stopper. So, yeah, Graham Souness is doing one of his usual bullshit. I mean, look, I don't want to spend too much time on Graham Souness because he boils my piss. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's time for Graham just to, you know, hang up his microphone now and fuck off into retirement and, you know, drink a glass of wine every evening and relax, mate, because your bias is so unbelievably prominent that, you know, it's become a bit of a joke, in fairness. Anyway, Oshin says, if players keep swapping nationalities, Pep Guardiola might go into international management. Chris says, I wonder who pays Souness to say such shit. Oshin says, the leaders of virtuous journalism, The Express. Yeah, absolutely. DJ says, Souness, savage as AF. Souness is a joke. Oshin says, don't want to agree with him, but can't fault him on Martial, can we? No, we can't. We can't fault him, disagree with him on that one, in fairness. But Chris says, would I get in trouble if I saw him and punched him in the mouth? You probably would. Yeah, probably would. Anyway, before we wrap it up in a couple of minutes, guys, I want to talk about some of the injury updates that Manchester United have got. Obviously, we've got some players on the medical table at the moment, and we've got a very big, what day is it today? We've got a very big 10 days coming up. So we've got Brighton on the weekend, which is going to be one hell of a difficult game. And I don't know if the rest of you know, but we've got Bayern Munich away next week in the Champions League. So, yeah, it's a massive 10 days for United, and we need to get players back, and we need to get them back as quickly as possible. But anyway, look, I mean, first and foremost, the man in your picture there, because, you know, obviously Lisandro Martinez, obviously he did limp off in the Arsenal game. And he did automatically go on international duty, but he hasn't featured for Argentina throughout the international break. Let's see what it says here about him. So let's see. He was not involved in Argentina despite being called up. Argentine manager Scaloni assured fans Martinez was fit. Licha, as you know, had an issue with his feet in their last game, Arsenal versus United. He was in pain and went out for precaution. They have done studies and he is well. So potential return date 16th of September. So look, I mean, that's great news. Lisandro Martinez is back straight away, not missing any games for United, you would hope. He goes straight back into that team. You know, Varane is going to be a big loss. He is going to be out by the looks of it, for a prolonged period of time. So Lisandro Martinez is vital. It's vital that he stays fit. And I don't think we can really afford Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire partnership again. I really don't think we can. Anyway, let's move it on. Sofian Amrabat, deadline day signing. Sofian Amrabat was forced to pull out of the Morocco squad for their games against Liberia and Burkina Faso, sparking worries. The midfielder had arrived on loan from Fiorentina injured. Still, at last, Lions boss Reg Ragu, I think, insists it was only a matter of precaution, raising hopes Amrabat will make his debut on Saturday. So yeah, look, we've gone through some reports already in relation to Amrabat, and it does look like he will be okay for the weekend. Whether he starts or not, that remains to be seen. He is going to have a full week on the training ground with Erik ten Hag, because he has returned back to Carrington once he left the Moroccan squad. So he's going to have probably a week of full training there, getting used to what Erik ten Hag expects from him. He's obviously played for ten Hag before. So I think it will be, I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start, because Ten Hag historically hasn't started new signings straight away. You know, Casemiro being case in point, I think it was 4 games before he got a start. So look, but let's hope he is available, because we're going to need all hands on deck. Victor Lindelof next then. So another defender in Lindelof came off again against Arsenal, albeit due to illness rather than injury. He was involved for Sweden over the break. It seems almost certain he will be there for the Brighton game. Yeah, so look, he's going to be good. He'll be back. So it does look like we're going to have Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof as our 2 centre backs. I cannot see any other reason why it wouldn't be them too, you know. Yeah, I think it's good news, and it's news that we need to hold on dearly to, really, don't we? Mason Mount is next. Summer signing Mount is yet to really get going. At United player and missed their last 2 games with a hamstring problem. The England international, however, is likely to feature after the international break. Doesn't go into too much on it, but it does say a potential return date is for the Bayern Munich game. Now, we haven't really had any updates on Mason Mount, but again, Ten Hag keeps his cards close to his chest when it comes to return dates for injured players. One, he did say it was a personal matter, you know, doctor-patient privilege kind of thing, which you can kind of understand, I suppose. But secondly, I mean, he doesn't want to be giving away too much either, which is understandable. And finally, Kobe Mainoo, young midfielder Kobe Mainoo impressed during pre-season. Mainoo, however, is likely to be back in action by the end of the month, which is good news as well, because, you know, he showed so much promise in pre-season that the sooner we get him back and get him reintegrated within the squad, the better. Let's see, and it does mention Varane here. He came off injured with the win over Forest and missed the Arsenal game with an unspecified fitness, and the club say the Frenchman will miss a few weeks of action. So he's probably not going to make it back for the game on the weekend. Yeah, let's see what your comments are, or your thoughts are here. Harry Maguire could be marking Harry Kane in the Champions League. Oh no. Would have got long odds at the start of the season for that. You certainly would have. DJ says Varane is made of glass. Look, I think next summer is going to be all about a centre back. We can't continue with Varane getting injuries. It's been 2 seasons in a row now. As much as I love him, you know, we did obviously hear at the end of the transfer window this summer that he was potentially going to, or there was an offer there from Saudi Arabia to tempt him. And he said, no, he wants to play for at least another 2 seasons in Europe. However, I think if United get a good offer for him next summer for the likes of Saudi Arabia, I think we take it. I really do. As much as I love Varane and how class he is, we need to be bringing in some young, up-and-coming, fit players that can last the season. But look, that's a long way away. Chris says, that's it. I'm paying for YouTube Premium. Ads are terrible. Ads keep the channel alive, I'm afraid. But yeah, I feel their pain. Let's see. Chris says, next summer, Varane going to Saudi and we will buy a young Portuguese centre-back. Yeah, well, look, I mean, if we're talking about next summer's transfer window already, centre-back is a big one. I think probably another central midfielder. I think the wide areas are going to be massive for next summer. I think, obviously the wings, we've seen obviously with Sancho and Antony now gone, how light we are. But I think there certainly is room for improvement there. I really do. DJ says, agreed, lots of clubs got huge payouts for all players from Saudi. We could use that with our financial issues. Tango says, Varane is world-class. No, I agree, he is world-class, but there are other world-class defenders out there that are a lot younger, and that, don't get injured as much. That's my only concern. I've no problem with Varane staying if he probably will be a backup. So I think if he is a depreciating asset, again, I said this an awful lot throughout the transfer window, Tango, that it's kind of a sentimentality thing that we have here as United fans, and we have it a bit too much, where we should just be moving players on and getting some money in, because we've been really bad at selling players, and that's why our net spend has been so bad, and why we're coming close to financial fair play regulations. Aaron says, one good thing that comes out of this, the money we get from for Sancho and Antony will allow us to buy a few without worrying about FFP. Yeah, spot on. Oshin says, got to strengthen the spine in the next 2 windows. Chris says, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. One, because I don't know if it's a real player or not, or you're trying to get me. And 2, I would just butcher it. Oshin says, geez, that costs a bomb to put that name on the jersey. It would. Anyway, did anyone hear, by the way, why Rasmus Højlund jerseys weren't? This will just tell you how bad Manchester United are being run. So Rasmus Højlund jerseys weren't available for sale for so long because the O with the line going through it, Manchester United hadn't got enough of them ordered in time. We're a joke of a club. So we are. I mean, we really, really are. The only shining light is Erik ten Hag and maybe 4 or 5 players. But I still love the club, though. But yeah, the O was out of stock. It was. Guys, look, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please do smash the like button, and do check us out on Spotify as well, guys. Anybody who wants to listen to these back, if you can't make every news show in the evening live, you can listen back to them on Spotify. As soon as I finish the live news shows every day, they're automatically put up on Spotify. They are behind the paywall. It helps the channel out. It's $2.99 a month. So if it's something you are interested in, you can go and do that. You will still get the weekly podcast with myself and Ricey. That's free of charge, as it always will be. We're not doing a podcast this week, obviously, because there's no Premier League. I will be on the radio tomorrow night. So I will be going live tomorrow from 9 rather than 7:30 as the normal time. And just a heads up to everybody that's watching as well, from next Monday, these lives will be going from 7:30 to 9 o'clock UK time. Reason for it is my wife is pregnant and she's getting more and more pregnant. I think we've got 5 weeks to go. So she needs a little bit more help around bedtime with our other daughter. And when the new little dude comes along, 9 o'clock is probably a more suitable time. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. I'll be, I'll tell you, I'll keep announcing it throughout the week anyway. We'll be switching from 7:30 to 9 o'clock at night. I do apologize if that doesn't suit some people, but look, it just has to be done. It's not going to be indefinite, but for the foreseeable future, we'll be switching to 9 o'clock. Baby, it's not going to be Sancho. Certainly not after this week, anyway. But guys, look, thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow night again with another news show. Hopefully, we'll have some good news. I know I say that every night, and we tend not to, but it is Manchester United, and yeah, we still love it anyway. Mohammed says, congratulations. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. And thanks for joining and commenting. But yeah, hit subscribe. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers, getting close. I would love to maybe get to 5,000 before Christmas. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe, please do. And check out all our other social medias as well. We're United Community Channel. Twitter is a big one. And going in on Twitter, I bought the blue tick on Twitter just to see what the difference is. Does it make any difference? And let me tell you, it makes fuck all difference. So I won't be keeping it next month. But yeah, I'm going to start trying to put out a lot more of the daily news that comes along. I'll try and update you. So if you haven't already done so, follow me on Twitter, turn on the bell notification. So I'll be posting any of the news that breaks throughout the day. It's quite easy to do that. So, you know, we're on Instagram as well. Of course, TikTok, YouTube. Can't hide from us. Thanks for watching. It isn't Twitter anymore. You're right, Oshin. It's X. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow night. Stay safe. Have a good one. See you soon.